Meet the low-carbon pioneers.
So I'm Tom Schuler, and I'm the President and CEO of Solidia Technologies in Piscataway, New Jersey.
And were you a mechanical engineer by training?
I was a mechanical engineer coming out of school where, what I learned very quickly was that engineering teaches you how to approach a problem. But then I did work in finance, which teaches you how to approach it from another direction, and then marketing, which teaches you another. So I really like walking around problems based on the training that I've had, and it's makes it a lot of fun.
Right. How did you first hear about Solidia, or how did you come to work here?
Yeah, I think I'd risen through the ranks and DuPont and gotten to a point where I was probably spending more time on the internal, mechanisms of the company than I was working on customers, and I just really didn't enjoy it very much. And the opportunity came along Solidia, quite frankly, through a headhunter, and I met the chairman of our company, which is Jan van Dokkum. He works for Kleiner Perkins, and just really, my entire career had been about new products, new markets, and how to get new products into those markets, and that was really where my passion was. And this just appeared to be a great opportunity. Within the first 10 minutes of my first interview, I laid out how I thought this could work in this industry, this 2,000-year-old industry that nobody had really innovated in a couple of hundred years. And for some reason, at a weak moment, I decided, hey, I think I know how to do this. And so from then on, it was pretty straightforward. I actually, as part of my interview process, I did interviews with BP, BASF, because they were considering investing, but they wanted to see what the new CEO was like. And so as you can imagine, me standing there with my new idea of where I thought the company should go, while we're trying to make sure that these guys continue to put money in, and my chairman's going, hey, don't make a mistake here, went really well, and thoroughly enjoyed working with the BP guys. With all of these things, if the vision of your company isn't aligned with the vision of your partner's company, it won't work. And BP clearly was taking a very serious position on sustainability. This was not just quarterly report fodder. This was something that they as a company had decided that for them to be competitive in the future, they had to be more sustainable. And that aligned perfectly with what we were trying to do.
And was the Advancing Low Carbon program already set up when BP came to talk to Solidia?
No, but I think that program in and of itself, to the best of my knowledge, was not set up. But certainly the strategy to invest by setting up a venture group that really focused on investing in new technologies that would overall reduce footprint, that was in place. And we certainly weren't their first investment, but we like to think we're one of their favorites. But I think the key thing for us is anytime you've got somebody else validating what you do, for a startup, that's critical, especially in a 2,000-year-old industry where nobody believes anything. When we walk in, they're like this, arms crossed, furrowed brow, they don't believe anything. And so we have to convince them. So anytime we have a third party validate what we're saying, it's invaluable. I mean, it's really invaluable. So Advancing Low Carbon, when that program came along, that really does allow us to validate some of the carbon savings that we know are true, but it's like drinking your own wine, right? You have to be careful to make sure that having somebody else validate what you do is more valuable than anything, not only in the industry but also to the broader community. That we're not, there's so much greenwash out in the industry today. Like the first time we walked into a cement company, the guy looked at me and he said, "I've looked at 300 different technologies just like yours, and they were all junk." Now, he used much more colorful language, right? But our ability to be able to prove to them that it works, that's what we've been doing since I got here anyway, is proving that it works. So having a third party like Advancing Low Carbon come in with, a third party beyond, it's not a BP thing, it's a Deloitte thing telling us that, looking at our stuff and telling us, yeah, it's real. That's been the most satisfying thing, because then our partners and our customers go, okay, we're not the only ones who think it works.
How does this accreditation work?
Well, I think it's like anything else. These guys have to be able to come in and look in detail at what you're doing and prove that you're actually consuming what you're consuming. Now, we document everything, so that's pretty easy for us, but unlike many technologies that you may hear a lot more about nowadays, you can take a piece of our concrete and you can test it and you'll know exactly how much CO2 is in it. So we can back up our claims, and that's part of what they bring is confirmation and validation of the product, the methodology, and the technology, and that's invaluable to us.
And in changing the recipe of cement, you flipped things on their head so that CO2 is actually a valuable ingredient for making it. I mean, how has that gone down? I mean, that's completely changed the way we think about it.
We've had some of the world's leading scientists and engineers in the cement industry come to our plant, look at our stuff, and they literally will hit their heads and go, why didn't we think of that? It was right there. It was right in front of us. Why didn't we think of that? And a lot of it's because we've got a group of mechanical engineers, civil engineers, material scientists, who for the most part didn't come out of the concrete industry. So the technology that we rely on comes from everywhere. Our doors come from the banana industry. The way that we think about CO2 injection comes from the food industry and how they freeze food. So we're not really handcuffed by technology that the industry has been using for decades. And so being able to come in and just look at the problem with a fresh set of eyes has produced some answers that none of us expected, including our customers. So it's been fun watching these cement guys, first become surprised and then realize that they missed it. We had one of the top scientists in China. We presented our stuff. He was very excited at the beginning. He became very morose in the middle, and they got excited again at the end. And I finally asked him at the end, I said, what were you going through there? And he said, at first I was very excited because it looked new. And then he said, I realized that I've been working on this for 10 years and you just leapfrogged me. And then I got over it and became very excited that you had a solution that I'd been looking for.
Is there some of the resistance to the idea simply that it's been done in this one way for so long? It's like turning around and saying, hey guys, I've got a new way to make bread, and it doesn't involve flour or something like that. Actually, wait, we do make bread without flour, don't we?
But it's not very good bread. I think that's the challenge is it's very, concrete. I use the bread analogy all the time in the way that we do our technology and everything else, but it really is, it's making bread with a different flour. And these guys, their exposure to make sure that those pavers work, to make sure that the roof tiles work, to make sure that the parking deck works the way it's supposed to, we're working alongside of them to make sure that all of us have the same confidence that it's going to do what it's expected to do. And the industry has codes and standards that are set up to confirm that. But as you can imagine, it takes a little bit of time before they're truly comfortable that it's going to do what it's expected to do. The great news with our technology is we've started with the simple stuff, right? Pavers and blocks, the code barriers, the risk associated with it are pretty low. But we've also already started on hollow core extrusions that are 100 meters long that go into walls and to floors, railroad sleepers. They're called railroad ties in the U.S., railroad sleepers everywhere else. They're critical applications that you have to begin the code process now because it takes several years to go through that. And our investors understand that. The great news is the market is so gigantic that we can very comfortably survive and grow as a company, even starting with something as simple as pavers and blocks, and be very comfortable that as we grow and our technology develops, that we're going to get big fast. There's a couple of surprising things of benefits that honestly we didn't think of that our customers have taught us about. Originally we were a green, high-strength concrete. And because we have a stronger bond, so you get more strength with the same amount of concrete. So after my first week here, we figured out very quickly that nobody wants stronger concrete. They want the same strength with less concrete. So that was point one. We also learned very quickly that nobody really cared about the green part. So as we went out and learned from our customers, we found things like our cement is a lighter color. And that has a tremendous impact aesthetically from a flexibility standpoint, but also from a cost standpoint. Because they have to buy white cement, which costs about twice what normal Portland cement costs. Well, we can replace white cement in most applications for about the same cost as Portland cement is. So that's a very evident one. But simple things like our curing process, Portland cement cures in 28 days, right, before it's fully cured.
And by that you mean before it's reached its full strength?
Right,
as well.
right. So something like a bridge, you're not going to use that thing for 28 days. Something like a paver, they'll cure it for 24 hours, then they'll stick it in inventory for a week so that it's strong enough to survive shipping. With our process, we're fully cured in 24 hours. They don't have to do anything else to it. So you can imagine the impact on cash, the impact on their ability to supply customers more quickly with just-in-time delivery. If I'm doing a curb or a road, the ability to not shut that road down but for a day. It has a significant impact on the way these things are done, and we think from a cost and performance standpoint, big impact on the groups that put those in place. But then you've got simple things like we don't react with water. And you find out that these companies spend hours every day just cleaning a simple mixer out. We clean in about 5 minutes with a hose and a brush, and we learned that by watching a customer. There was a customer standing in our lab, and he was watching us clean our mixer, and he started laughing, and it was kind of a scary, hysterical kind of laugh. And I walked up to him and I said, "What are you laughing at?" And he goes, "That would have taken me 45 minutes, and your guy just did it in 5 minutes." He said, "Do you know how much money that would save us?" And it's one of the biggest cost savings that we find with any of the customers that we've got today. So we're continuing to learn the small things that impact these businesses. And a lot of it's when you've been doing something the same way for 50 years, you don't pay attention as much. It's like going to the UK and driving on one side of the road and then coming back. My biggest problem was I always had to rethink how to drive on, the right side of the road. It's the same thing with these guys. They haven't thought about making concrete to the degree that we get them to think about it, and they're finding value everywhere. And it's a lot of fun because they share it with us. Usually these guys, when they make pavers for the first time, it comes out of the press, before they put it in, the first 10 boards or however many, they have to throw away, right? Because the press isn't quite right or the mix design isn't quite right. And that adds up to a lot of money. Well, because they're in a race against time, right? As soon as you put water next to that cement, it starts curing. We don't have that problem because we're not curing until you put it into a CO2 environment. So if they don't like the boards, they put it back in the mixer, reset, and repress. And so for them, that takes maybe a 5% yield loss, and now they don't have any yield loss. And so they make more money that way as well.
What will the public see, if anything? I mean, buildings will still go up as normal, but I mean, there will be benefits. If things are done more quickly, then you were mentioning maybe a road won't be closed for so long.
I think by and large, the general public, if we do our jobs well, will see very little difference. The concrete ought to perform the same way. Maybe they're going to have some more flexibility aesthetically. The aesthetics will last longer. They'll be more durable.
What kind of things do you mean by the aesthetics?
Well, cement's always been gray, and our cement's white, and you can do a lot more with white than you can with gray. Ask any fashion critic. And really, the concrete business, to a degree, is, in a lot of senses, a fashion business. So I think for those markets that are sensitive to fashion, it'll be important.
Can you have, can you have different colors?
Oh yeah, and brighter colors and colors that are more durable. Now, for something that the public doesn't see, it's really, well, that road won't be closed as long. That parking lot will be open faster. We'll be able to build that building more quickly and do it with a smaller footprint. We'd love to be able to think that the general public is going to be thrilled to death with a sustainable footprint, with the environmental footprint and how small it is. And there's going to be a segment of the public that's fascinated by that, but the large majority of people won't. And we have to be satisfied. It's like giving your dog medicine, right? You put it in peanut butter, but you have to be satisfied that the dog took the medicine. And I think we're going to have to be satisfied that we're going to make a significant change in the footprint of this world, at that scale. And the fact that we have to do it quietly is okay with us.
Where do we go from here? Where do you want to see this going in 5 to 10 years?
Well, it's interesting. Our customers, we've had a list of customers that's been waiting for us to get the equipment to the right place where it's affordable, to make sure that the technology did what it was supposed to do. And we're at the point now where we've got the equipment. We know how the affordability works. It's really just a question of how quickly can we roll it out. The science has been proven, the engineering's been proven, the technology's been proven. It's been proven at commercial scale. So now really it's a question of how quickly we can roll it out. And working with partners like BP and the rest of our investors, we're trying to decide how hard do you press the accelerator. The challenge that we have, you have to remember, is concrete's something that people pretty much take for granted. It's not, I don't have an app. It's not necessarily the sexiest thing in the world, but it can probably have a greater impact on the environment than just about any technology that's available for deployment today. So we like our odds. We think we're going to see more notice, and we think it's going to move a lot faster than maybe we may be prepared for today, but we know how to get ready very quickly. But and we don't have any illusions that we're going to be the only solution to this problem. We can't be. If the world wants to get where it wants to get, we can't be the only one, but we're certainly one that, given the time frame, we work right now, and we've got to find a way to accelerate how we deploy this technology. But we're by no means going to be the only technology that's going to find a way to take CO2 and use it for something that's valuable in the marketplace. If you don't have a commercially viable solution, it's not going to get adopted.
So if you were to go back when you were starting out in mechanical engineering and you were told you were going to change the world through concrete, what would you think?
Wow, that's a great question. I think as an engineer coming out of school, what keeps people going is not this, this motivation of I want to be rich, I want to save the world, I want to do big things. It's, I want to be challenged every day, and that's been kind of the premise for my career since day one. Is I want to be challenged and excited and learning new things every day. So personally, I think the journey for me is always more exciting than necessarily the destination. Now, the fact that we're in a position to be able to have this level of impact for a world that desperately needs a solution, is desperately looking for solutions, is personally incredibly gratifying. I don't know that we necessarily need to get the credit, quote unquote, because the journey is just fascinating. So it's been, I don't think I ever would have thought of that, but I think more for us, it's, we keep having problems come up, we keep knocking them down, and for me, that's probably the most gratifying thing in the world. The fact that we are able to have the impact, that we're going to have the impact that we're very confident we're going to have, that's icing on the cake and something we would have never thought of.
Thanks for listening. For more information, go to newscientist.com/BP or solidiatech.com.